So are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be alive? Let me see.
More alive than Mr. Huguely. I did my research.
No, I told you the guy. Oh my God. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to episode 2. Thank you for giving us a second chance if this is the second episode you were listening to. Do you have any updates?
On.
Your life?
It's the same. I go to work, I come home, I do dad chores.
What about husband chores?
No, I like the dad chores. Do husband chores once the sun goes down.
Shut up. So football started.
It did. Not too good.
Oh, the Razorbacks. That's your team.
They started out good, but we haven't played anybody worth mentioning yet.
And then the Chiefs.
Played the other night down in Brazil. Lost a good one.
Was that a legit NFL game? Mm-hmm. Like it counts?
Mm-hmm.
Who'd they play?
The Chargers. I think there's a series of 7 international games right now. I think the next one's going to be in Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, that's cool.
And then Berlin.
Is that a new thing?
Yep.
So the case is the kidnapping/murder of Gregory Huguely?
Huguely.
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 Huguely. Gregory Huguely. He was also known as New York. Did you get that in your research?
I did.
You did? Do you know why?
I can only assume that he's from New York.
You're correct.
Yeah.
The convicted in this case was Anthony Todd Boyd, Robert Sean Ingram, who went by Sean, Monique Marcel Ackles, he went by Marcel, and then Quinte Cox.
And I assume Quinte went by Quinte.
I'm assuming that as well. I was driving Meep Meep, our kid's car, when I heard it over the radio that Meemaw, Governor K. Ave, set the date for his for Todd, dang it, Anthony Todd Boyd's execution.
October. Like 23rd?
23rd to 24th.
Yeah.
A certain time frame. It intrigued me because it was more local to us and I had not heard about it. So I did a little Google and ChatGPT and a lot of reading. And here we are. So as we go throughout the notes, the one thing I want you to remember throughout this, all the men do not have a prior criminal history before this case.
So it just means they haven't been caught.
True. I mean, considering what this whole case involved around, yes.
Yeah, you don't escalate from your perfect citizen to doing this.
Yeah, but I think...
There are some misdemeanors in between that felony.
Do you know that?
No, I'm just saying.
True, probably. I mean, I don't know. It was really... It just seems like, I don't know, unless the case is like, not like a Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy, like there's not really a lot covered and it's hard to find the information if not a lot of people cared about it. I had to read a lot of news articles from that time frame and court, I don't know what you call them, like one was a memorandum of the whole appeals process and a couple other were just legal jargon over the appeals cases.
Yeah, but where was this? Talladega County? Was that what it was?
Yes, North Talladega County in Anniston, Alabama.
But everybody in the county knew who these guys were.
Yeah.
So they weren't angels.
Yeah. I mean, within their community, they were not angels. When I refer to the guys in the case, the ones convicted, I'm going to refer to them as with their last name. But Gregory, I'm going to refer to him with his first name to give him a little bit of dignity, considering the way that he died. Just respect for him and his family. And it's going to seem like, and you probably, from your little bit of research that you were doing, it's going to seem like most of it is surrounded around Boyd. Okay, so the date of the event was 31 July 1993. And how it started was Boyd, Ingram, Ackles, and Cox. They were looking for a man named Dexter Spinks. He had owed them money, but instead they found Gregory on 15th Street in Anniston, Alabama, because he also owed them money for about $200 in cocaine. So they kidnapped him by gunpoint. They put him in a blue van that Ackles had rented. Cox was dropped off and supposed to follow. Ingram had the gun, which was a 9mm Mac automatic pistol, but it was provided by Cox. And I have no idea what kind of gun that is, but I'm sure you do.
I do.
Is it like a Glock?
No, it's a Mac.
What's special about this gun? Anything?
No.
It's just a gun, pistol. That's it. Not special power or anything.
No, like back in that day, like a Mac 10 was popular. Mm-hmm. That's like your little submachine guns that you can see, like your Uzi.
I don't know what a Uzi is. Oh. I mean, yes, I'm prior military. I'm sure some people are going to remember that, but I was a paper pusher in a hospital. I wasn't anything more than that.
So this is just a 9mm pistol.
When he was kidnapped, he begged the men to not kill him, and he promised that he would get them their money. And as the men drove around town, he was forced to lay down. And in this process, they arrived at a baseball field in Mumford Community in North Talladega County, just outside of Anniston, Alabama, between 7 and 8 p.m. Now, there's conflicting information when gasoline was purchased, but the gas station clerk testified that Boyd purchased about $1 of gasoline, which is like about a gallon at that time. The gas was put into a plastic container by Boyd, but the conflicting information is whether or not it was purchased during the route to the baseball field or Boyd left and got it and then came back. So Gregory's hands and mouth were taped with duct tape by Ackles. Boyd taped his feet. Ingram ordered Boyd and Ackles to bind Gregory to the bench with duct tape. Sean Ingram covered Gregory in gasoline, made a 3-foot trail of gas from the bench. Then he lit the trail on fire, which led to Gregory, causing him to go in flames. The men watched him burn for 10 to 15 minutes until the flame was gone, and Gregory rolled over a few feet and died. When I was rereading the notes earlier, I got teary-eyed because it just sounds horrible. So 1 August 1993, Gregory's body was found by a few people who came to play a game, and they immediately called the sheriff's department. So it was hard to make identification with his body, so tattoos and jewelry really helped that.
So they just left him like there at the baseball field?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They just left. Like it was nothing. The coroner found traces of tape on the victim's right forearm and across his mouth, and traces of the duct tape were also found on the burn board located at the scene. So that was kind of like some evidence there. It all ties in later. I don't know how much you got. I was kind of listening to what you were listening to, and it was very dramatized about the actions and stuff, and I think there was a couple misinformation. I don't remember exactly which ones they were. The 4 men were arrested between August and September that year.
So how did the investigation identify them out of everybody in Talladega County? We went from a body on the baseball field to cops arresting them.
I didn't find that. That was it was really hard. I know what testimony was what really tied them into it, because that was the biggest piece of evidence they had, because then it tied everything else in that they found. I do not know how it was, because you'll hear later with the other notes I have. I don't know. I guess I should have looked that up more, but I'm telling you, I read so much and I did not see that anywhere. I mean, maybe going around asking people, especially in that kind of community, and people started saying, oh yeah, this guy, and started putting 2 and 2 together. Because, I mean, they started arresting in August. What was it again? In September. I think that's kind of pretty quick, but... So we know that Gregory owed them money, and it was specifically to Boyd. And it wasn't just cocaine. It was crack cocaine. And I didn't really know how it was made and how it was different. So, and you already knew this because I think We had talked about this in the past, just about which we could cover one day, about African Americans and crack cocaine back in what was it, the 80s?
Oh, I think it was older than that. I think it was 60s and 70s.
So it's made by cooking powder cocaine with baking soda or ammonia and water until it hardens into solid rocks. And then the crack comes from the crackling sound it makes when smoked. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to list some of the evidence before I start diving into these trials. Evidence collected from the baseball field was a book of matches, bottles, cans, soil samples, the charred board that was served as a bench, and then a plastic red bottle top with traces of gasoline. And then used in the case was pictures of the bird and body. But the only fingerprints found were of those of the investigators. The convicts' fingerprints weren't found there. So that's what I'm trying to think when you ask that question. I didn't even think about looking that part up. Mm-hmm. It had to have been from just start asking around that community, and it was just
because those guys were known as up to no good.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't put this in the notes because I didn't find it relevant, but there is a police officer that testified against Boyd, and I don't remember his name, but he had first talked about how he was chasing Boyd around the apartment complex that Boyd lived in, but then he redacted what he was saying because there's no record, through, how they call it in, and so there was no logs or anything of that.
Well, didn't one of the suspects ended up snitching on everybody? That's how they got the arrest of them all.
Kind of. You'll hear it.
Okay.
It wasn't really snitching. It was more like a plea deal. The Alabama Department of Forensic Science included a forensic scientist and a state medical examiner. The forensic scientist testified that the duct tape used, its melting point was more than 400 degrees Fahrenheit. His name was John Case. The state medical examiner, Dr. Joseph Embry, he examined and testified that the victim's tongue, throat, and epiglottis, is that how you say that? Mm-hmm. Were all burned and swollen, and soot was found in the victim's trachea.
What was the word?
Epiglottis. Did I say that right? It's Epiglottis.
Esophagus?
No. I'm about to explain it.
Okay.
The epiglottis is a small, flexible flap of cartilage located at the base of your tongue, just above the larynx, which is your voice box.
Mm-hmm. So some children born, that's not developed yet. That's a little flap in the back of your throat.
Was that you?
Yes.
I think I remember you saying something like that.
And I had to stay kind of in ICU for a while.
NICU.
Yep. And tube fed.
Yeah, because you were born early.
Yeah, well, that's like your GERD and everything else. For the reflux, that's what keeps it from coming up.
I'm wondering if we talked about this because Bella, the same, when she was born, for until she was almost 2, she had really bad acid reflux. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that it took I don't know if that fully develops later or just eventually it just got better. Mm-hmm. I think she doesn't ever talk about it.
It's like a little relief valve. It keeps it from coming back up.
Maybe that's why she had bad breath. When she got on to Bella got on to Ava the other day because those mints, she puts them in her lunchbox, and Ava was saying something. She was like, Ava, I need these. I've got bad breath. It's a medical condition. I was like, well, you weren't diagnosed, but okay, Bella.
She just makes sure everybody she talks to is taller than her.
Oh, got it now. So Dr. Embry stated that based on evidence, the victim was breathing in the smoke that probably came from his body when his clothes were burning. And that indicated that Gregory was alive when he was ignited. So he wasn't they didn't murder him before. He concluded that the cause of death was from the thermal burns. I know the thing that you were listening to said both, the inhalation of the smoke and then thermal. I mean, sure, probably, but the focus was the thermal burns. Mm-hmm. So there were fluids collected from Gregory, and it showed that he ingested alcohol and cocaine that night. I'm sure they all were on something for this to happen this way. I'm going to discuss witnesses that were mostly used against Boyd, but some of their testimonies were also used against the others. I want to kind of get some sort of ground established for these witnesses because they are important. I want you to remember everything. I want you to remember the testimonies and then the fact that these men didn't have a criminal history before. I just, considering the outcome in the end. Donique Cox, I think that's how you say it. He testified for the state. He was the brother of Quinte Cox. He stated that Boyd told him that they found Greg and how they found him on 15th. They took him to a ballpark and killed him. Boyd told Donique that they shot him and set him on fire. But Donique claimed that Boyd never specified who they were. So all they knew was Boyd did something with a group of guys. The next witness is Sabrina Mack. She also testified for the state, and she was asked by the four men if she had seen New York, and she told them no. She asked them why, and Ackles told her that he stole from them. One of the men, doesn't say who, told her that's all right. We will get his ass. Amy Jernigan. She testified her interactions with Boyd, Cox, and Ingram. Cox asked to borrow her vehicle, and he returned it to her by 9:15. And she also testified that he owned a gun that she described looked like a Mac 11, owned by the sheriff's department. Like, looked like their gun, not like he took one of theirs. Linda Green, she testified that she saw Gregory on 15th and that a van pulled up. Someone with a gun came out and told Gregory to come here while Gregory responded, "Please don't kill me." She said Boyd wasn't the person, but the person threw Gregory into the van and that there were about like 10 people standing around when this occurred. Lewis Butts testified for the state that Boyd told Ingram and Ackles that Gregory owed them money for drugs and they had to get him.
Lewis? That's his brother, Seymour.
Lewis's brother is Seymour. What's his equivalent? Like, what's his connection?
Seymour Butts.
Oh, my God. He overheard Gregory tell Ingram he wasn't getting into the van because they were going to kill him. And then he saw Ingram pull Gregory in. So I can't confirm, but there is an article that says someone's brother testified he was told by one of the convicted that they kidnapped Gregory, took him to the ball field, shot him, and set him on fire. The medical examiner, no other report showed the victim was shot. Why are you smiling?
Seymour.
Oh, my God. My opinion is if one of the convicted did say this, it could have just been for clout.
Yeah, for street credit.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And I knew you would add to that. So Quinte Cox, he gave testimony against Boyd in exchange for a plea deal. The plea deal allows him to plead guilty to non-capital murder and get sentenced to life with the possibility of parole. So if he didn't testify, he'd be looking at sentence to death or life without parole. His testimony, Boyd told him on the phone that he wanted to talk to him. Cox shows up at the apartment and was told that Boyd claimed to be robbed and wanted to find the person, who was Dexter Spinks at the time. Cox got a gun from his aunt's house, Mac 11, which I kind of find is funny. She testified that she knew he had one. So maybe he had it and stored it there, which probably means that it's not allowed to have. Boyd and Cox looked for 30 minutes and came across Ackles, who was driving the blue Astro van. Then Boyd and Cox joined Ackles in the van. And after 15 minutes, Ingram saw Gregory. According to Cox, Gregory said, "Please don't kill me, just beat me," and that Ingram did not reply, but just grabbed Gregory and pushed him into the van. Cox got out into his own car after they drove him to his house. He followed them to the gas station. Ackles got out, went into the store, and pumped gasoline into a plastic container. Then he passed the gasoline through the window to Ingram. So this is like the one that's confusing. It's like, I don't know that there was...
Yeah, well, I thought you said like there was a witness statement that they seen Boyd pump the gas. And now the testimony says somebody else pumped the gas.
So to be fair, they don't look alike. I think the only similarity is that they're both black. Like all of them are black men, black African-American men. But Ingram and Boyd are slender compared to Ackles. I don't know their height, so I'm maybe wondering if he just missed, so who really knows? There was just different, there's Cox's testimony, but then there's like reports.
Yeah, just bottom line is somebody in that vehicle pumped gas into a plastic container.
But I think the whole point of trying to establish who did it is like whose mind was in more intent of killing. Because clearly that person was planning on burning this man alive.
Well, and that was part of the evidence used against them for capital murder was the like a receipt, right? Showing that they did pump gas only $1 worth, showing the intent was to use it to...
Yeah, because they only got a little bit. They didn't need a whole lot. So Cox claimed he got out of the car to ask what's going on. No one answered. Ingram made Gregory lie down on the bench at the ballpark. Ackles taped his hands and mouth. Boyd taped his feet. Before his mouth was taped, he was begging for his life. Ingram doused Gregory with gasoline, made a trail for a foot or two from the bench, then he lit the gasoline. Or the trail of gasoline. So in cross-examination, Cox testified that all instructions were being given by Ingram, and he was the only one armed. He instructed Ackles to get the gasoline and ordered the others to tape Gregory. Ingram was the only one who poured the gasoline and lit the fire.
So my question to you, why is this centered around Anthony Boyd and not Ingram? If Ingram was the ringleader, Ingram was the one with the gun, Ingram was the one giving the commands, why is Boyd the topic of discussion for today's episode?
So my thoughts, because obviously I don't know for sure, by going through everything, he was the one that got it all started. He said, hey, this guy stole from me and I want to find him. And then they found another guy that owed them money. So in the end, it was Boyd who was out to get somebody. Maybe not murder, but you know.
Did you know that there's a song on YouTube? The free Anthony Boyd song.
Is it really?
There is. It's pretty good.
You know, I know this wouldn't happen, but I almost question on if I could contact and see if he'd let me interview him just to ask him some questions. But I'm not that confident in my skills. I probably wouldn't be allowed, but because I think you'd probably have to be a special like news reporter or something like that. Okay. So let's get convicted. Anthony Todd Boyd, he was 22 at the time of the murder. He claimed he didn't do it, meaning the murder, during the trial.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't think it was him. I think it was all of them.
Oh, yeah, they all had a part. Yeah. At any time, someone could have been like, yeah, I'm going to bounce. I'm not down with this. This is the one thing we try and teach our kids, especially our son, that you need to surround your people who are not making dumb decisions because you could get in trouble just by...
Guilty by association.
His attorney stated that he wasn't part of the crime until he was held at gunpoint, but there's no evidence to prove that Boyd was held at gunpoint. In the guilty phase of the trial, defense had a few witnesses to include Beth Ackles, the aunt of Sharon Ackles, and her testimony was to discredit Sharon Ackles of seeing the interaction between the men.
And who was Sharon? Sharon was his aunt.
Hold on.
But then this is Sharon's aunt.
Hold on. I think Sharon was his mom. I didn't put that in there.
Okay.
But I think Sharon was Monique's mom. I could be wrong. I remember somebody was somebody's mom. I guess I should have made sure. I think I deleted it because I didn't think it was that relevant. But Sharon was the aunt of this woman who testified and was like, she lives with me. She was home the whole time, except she left to walk a block and back, and that was it. So the defense was trying to use her to discredit that because Sharon's testimony of seeing, hearing, and whatever of them doing with it was used obviously as strong evidence against Boyd. So a lot of witnesses spoke on his behalf at his sentence hearing, saying that Boyd was kind and generous in asking to spare his life, and he obviously also asked to spare his own life. But unfortunately for him, he was convicted of capital murder for the intentional murder during a first-degree kidnapping. 19 May 1995, he was sentenced to death by electrocution with the recommendation of the jury. So from my understanding is the jury recommends how, and then the judge decides how.
I thought...
You'll see how I came up with that.
I thought the convicted chooses. They get an option. They get sentenced to death, and then they get to choose.
That's not what I read. I just read jury recommended, and then the judge decided, but it does change.
Because at this time, Alabama only had 2 recognized forms of execution, which would be the electric chair and lethal injection.
You're a little ahead of the game.
Okay.
Yep. I remember hearing that when you were hearing it. That sounds silly, but yeah. So the jury's verdict was unanimous, which means everyone agreed Boyd was guilty.
So what did the other 3 guys get? Do you have that information?
Oh, yep.
Okay. I'll sit back.
I still need you to comment.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I said this. Maybe I said this. No, I didn't. I don't think so. I find it odd that he got a harsh sentence when he has no prior criminal history. Like, as such harsh, at least get like life without parole or something. But to be sentenced to death and you don't have on record any prior criminal history. But it's the legal jargon. When you read it, you understand how they came to that. They all have to agree. They all have to like understand the law. I get that. It's such a harsh thing.
But it is the South and in the early 90s. And we don't know the tension in the community at that time. Like how much publicity was it getting? How much pressure was on like, the DA, were they using this to make a point to everybody else? We don't know if like that area was like crime ridden and they were going to make an example out of this case. There's a lot that we're not privy to.
I tried to, I don't know if it was the correct DA because I kept getting conflicting information, but if I got the right one with the right DA, he resigned around this time, like a couple years after. So I don't know. I mean, I mentioned this before, just something to be noted that he's African-American in the 90s and it's evolved around crack cocaine. So I'm sure, like you said, it's the South and they want to make sure probably they clean those streets. Over time, Boyd exhausted all of his appeals. So he tried to have the sentencing overturned. He tried to use selection or dismissal of potential and actual jury members based off gender and race, saying that it wasn't a fair amount. At one point, 4 members were dismissed. I'm sure there's a legal word, I don't know what you call it, but it was due to family issues or conflicting beliefs with the death penalty. During trial, he never objected to any of that. So that's a common thing between him and Ingram. They never objected to this stuff. So he did bring up that Sharon Ackles was made out to be more of a credible witness by the prosecutor because he was a relative of one of the convicted. And his attorney did try and say that photographs of the body were acceptable for the sentence hearing, but not the guilt phase. I tried to understand that.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd go a step further because I don't get it.
Well, the guilt phase of the trial is basically determining guilty or not.
Yeah. Maybe for sympathy for the juror, it kind of drives it home.
Yeah, to make
be
like,
it.
oh, he's guilty because this is what he did to it.
Yeah,
compared to when getting sentenced going, this is what he's done, he needs to pay.
It's one thing to say it, but then when you can see it.
I personally think the witness testimony, the witness testimonies plus Cox was the most evidence that like got him the conviction. I mean, I get it. You need the visual of the photographs to connect the pieces together.
But you say him, in reality, it's them.
Yes, in reality then, but I'm talking about his particular trial. So his attorney also tried to argue that there was racial discrimination between the jury selection. So there's this thing called peremptory challenge. It allows an attorney, prosecutor, or defense to dismiss a potential juror without stating a reason. He only used 7 of the black potential jurors during selection. The defense also tried to say that with female jurors, but the court found no discrimination based off race or gender.
And so you said 7. So in America, we do what, 9?
I think 14 in this one.
14, okay.
I think in this one, I think it depends. I think it's 9 to 14. But none of this was objected to before the appeals. But I'm sure, like, when things happen, we replay them in our head going, oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. So, and I'm assuming, which I shouldn't assume, that this defense was appointed to Boyd and he didn't hire.
Well, did you ever read the attorney's name?
I did. I didn't.
Okay.
I mean, some of the stuff that I didn't put down, I don't think people would have cared or remembered. I think I was just trying to, because this is a lot.
Well, I was just trying to use context clues. Like if you never heard his name, then it could have been a court-appointed attorney.
I never heard his name, but I'm not that familiar.
Yeah. I'm saying like if his name was, if it just said attorney, then it could be court-appointed because anybody practicing law with their own office would want their name
It
mentioned.
did. So majority of it was his attorney or the attorney. It sometimes it lists, like in the legal documents of the recap of the court, like the actual on justia.com or whatever, with all the stuff. Remember, I told you I had to reread it over and over to try and understand and ask Google Chat GPT to explain. There was his, but then it'd say his attorney. So his defense claimed that Boyd was held at gunpoint, like I said before, but there's no record. And none of the witnesses said they saw this. And they also try to say his alibis were not taken seriously. So there was a point where he had people to say, yeah, I saw him at this time and I saw him at a party after and all this stuff. But during the time of when the murder happened, nobody can count for seeing him. So,
So you said it was like, between 7 and 8 o'clock. Everybody can see you. You go and commit this heinous crime and then go to a party afterwards and still be seen.
Yeah, he went it was like around 9:15 or after, maybe a little late. He went to someone's birthday party. They remember seeing him there before, like the police officer was used to put a timeline, him seeing him at a specific, but that was like at 5 something. But there was nothing during the time of the murder, so it didn't stick. Unfortunately for Boyd, though, and the rest of the men, there were too many witnesses to testify that Gregory had been threatened by them because money was owed to Boyd. So here we go. We move forward, petitions, appeals. In 2002, Boyd had already used up all his direct appeals, so he did what you call a post-conviction petition, and it's called a Rule 32. The petition was denied on so many things. A lot was due to technicalities. He didn't obtain further evidence, like, coming back, hey, I have this. Issues he was bringing up in the appeals were never objected during the trial, and the court stood by everything else that was presented in the original trial. Then 2003, Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals issued a ruling. Biggest issue they had was that Boyd didn't object to his issues during trial. Like, that's the most common thing. For any, like him trying to get stuff overturned and stuff but I mean, he'd never been in this situation before, so maybe I wouldn't object to things either because I don't know.
Well, and the convicted doesn't get to object. That's the attorney that says object, right?
Yeah, but when I read the thing, it was saying Boyd. So when I see that, a part of me thinks that he was defending himself, but it didn't say he ever defended himself. I think it just said to make a connection of who actually was the case about, or like the trial about at that time with all this stuff going on. They probably just said Boyd did this, Boyd did that. Because when I hear that and I thought slightly maybe he was representing himself, reminded me of that guy who ran his vehicle through a crowd and represented himself, and he just sounded crazy. Do you remember that guy? It was during like COVID because he was wearing a mask and he was just, I don't know, and they were trying to hardest have the patience with him. But he also addressed, the court also addressed Boyd's argument that his death sentence was Boyd's argument was that his death sentence was unconstitutional on the U.S. Supreme Court ruling based off of Ring versus Arizona. So that particular case is a major case about the Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial in the context of death penalty. He felt that the jury influenced the judge on his decision. This is where I put 2 and 2 together, that the jury recommended, and then it also had the word recommended, and the judge did decides the sentencing. The court said because it wasn't brought in his Rule 32 petition, the court found that it was not properly before an appellate court for review. Then he tried to claim he was entitled to a determination whether his sentence of death violates Atkins versus Virginia. This case was most important U.S. Supreme Court rulings on the death penalty and intellectual disability. He tried to say based off of where he grew up, he was subject to chemicals, PCBs, which are known to affect temper and control, and that he experienced sexual trauma of violence and rape that could have given him a disorder that impacts his ability to communicate, reason, and control his impulses. which might put him in the category of persons which Atkins, this case says, cannot be executed. I get it, but then, I mean, I get his stance of he's trying any and everything so he doesn't die. It's just crazy. But again, he didn't bring this up in the Rule 32. In 2003 December 2003, Boyd filed a motion for a rehearing. Criminal Appeals Court denied. May 2005, the Alabama Supreme Court denied Boyd's petition for a writ of certiorari or curtitoriari. I'm thinking cert.
So he's the only one appealing. The other convicted people are just hanging out?
I think, if I remember, Ingram does too. I have to get back to those notes to re-see. Ingram did do some. I didn't have as much information as Boyd did. It seemed like Boyd just was really. So I remember listening to your little synopsis of everything, and it says that Boyd, it seemed like he became really proactive about trying to change the system and how things are done. Do you not remember hearing that?
No.
So it said that he become part of like some committee.
Oh yeah, within the penitentiary.
Trying to take out like it said, like it didn't seem like he really had any remorse for the victim and feeling bad for it. And they're like, sure, he probably did when he was alone, but his main goal was trying to change processes and everything. I mean, he's got a lot of time on his hands. So June. Wait. Oh, this thing, the writ of certiorari. We're just going to say the writ of cert. Basically, when a legal order from a higher court tells a lower court to send up the record of case so the higher court can review it. But they're basically saying there was no need because there's no justification, I guess. June 2005, Boyd filed a federal habeas petition. Habeas corpus, meaning you should have the body. You knew that? Where'd you learn that from?
Just knowledge.
It's safeguard against unlawful imprisonment. So forcing the government to justify why it is holding someone. And this is where I guess where the Supreme Court denied is the line you can't cross, such as a federal court may not review state court decisions on federal claims that rest on state law grounds. An example would be Boyd's constitutional rights were violated during trial, but he didn't object, so it doesn't need to reach federal because the state Supreme Court says he failed to object during trial. He tried to say that his 5 witnesses for an alibi, that he had 5 witnesses for an alibi, but there was no evidence that the witnesses told police that he was around with them at the time of murder. And it also doesn't help that Donique Cox testified that Boyd told him that he and some others killed the victim at the ballpark. So all the witnesses used against him put a better timeline of him being at the murder. He tried to say that the victim's body was still bleeding when found, but there's no record or evidence that suggests the body was reported still bleeding. Boyd was saying that there was no evidence to say that he participated in the murder apart from Quinte Cox saying that. He states his participation was minor and less than Ackles, who received a life sentence of life without parole. Whenever I was reading through everything, it seemed like Ackles did the less of everyone, so I don't know what he was trying to say. So the Court of Criminal Appeals affirmed the death sentence, and Boyd tried to claim he was being punished on the group's actions and not as an individual.
I can see that.
I can too. But again, the issues weren't brought up. That's so unfortunate. Because you would think that they would at least, I don't know, do a retrial? I don't know. If he was bringing up them the second time, okay, let's do a retrial. But I don't know what constitutes a retrial, the timeline, all that legal stuff. So 18 August 2025, Meemaw, Governor K. Ivey, set his execution date, making him the 3rd Alabama prisoner scheduled to die in 3 months and the 6th execution scheduled this year. It is set to be between 12 a.m. on 23rd October and 6 a.m. 24 October. 2017, Boyd tried to change his method of execution to hanging, firing squad, or lethal injection. 2018 is when Alabama offered inmates the option of selecting nitrogen hypoxia. So Boyd did choose that over electrocution. Do you know what nitrogen hypoxia, how it's done?
Yes, I do. It's so hypoxia. So it would be a mask. They would put over your nose and mouth and just pump you full of nitrogen, which will deplete the oxygen in your system.
You're very smart. So essentially suffocating them to death. Opponents of the method believe it to be untested, unconstitutional, and painful torture, which how do you test it and know that it's pain, apparently Alabama was the first to use this method from the research I found. I don't know how accurate that one is.
Oh, well, I think there's only 2 states that use it.
I remember hearing your thing. Was it Louisiana?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Arkansas and Mississippi just adopted it, but they are yet to use
Implement
it.
it. Yeah.
Louisiana and Alabama are the only states that actually use it.
I wouldn't doubt Louisiana would be a part of that. Ironically, what you said Arkansas and where?
Mississippi.
Yeah. Well. Welcome to the South, boys. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Boyd's attorney is currently trying to say that he has asthma and vertigo, which can make the death of nitrogen more painful and prolonged. I heard that on your thing too. So the state did make an argument that in past, inmates use this tactic to prolong death. Like everything. So Boyd, he has the right, like a human nature. He's going to fight to live. So trying to say that this is going to cause his stuff more painful and prolonged. He's just trying to get out of it. If the court agrees, the Commissioner of Corrections can designate other U.S. constitutional methods: lethal injection, electrocution, which he already opted out of, and then lethal gas, hanging, and firing squad. I personally have vertigo. Now, I haven't struggled with it in a while, but I have vertigo, and I do not know how this would make dying more painful and prolonged. But after asking ChatGPT, it seems like it would make it miserable and not painful. I get that because you just get very dizzy and nauseous.
Yeah, well, it's not designed to make you feel good.
I know.
The end result is designed for the end result.
I know. Yeah. I mean, he's probably scared to die. I mean, I would be. I find it ironic considering he watched a man burn to death, 5 August 2025, he tried to appeal requesting a stay of execution because others who have committed similar crimes only were convicted for felony murder compared to capital. Felony murder in Alabama is defined under Alabama Code 13A-6-2A3. They commit or attempt to commit certain felonies like arson, rape, robbery, burglary, or kidnapping. Someone died in the course of and furtherance of that felony, even if the death was unintended or accidental. In Alabama, it's a Class A felony, only carrying 10 years to life in prison. He tried to argue the 14th Amendment right was violated. It's an equal protection clause. The part of the amendment that he is referring to, states must provide equal protection of the laws to all people. Examples: racial equality, gender rights, voting rights, all that. So, how he was claiming the whole race discrimination issue. That's where he's applying that to. This is how I think it would have been a felony murder instead of capital. Is if, let's say, they shot Gregory and not bound him with duct tape and set him on fire while watching him. So, like, if they were kidnapping and shot him, I feel like maybe that would have been more a felony than capital. But I'm by no means saying that they should have murdered that man. 4 September 2025 was supposed to be a hearing to see if his medical issues will cause an issue. But as of today, and my frequent updates from ChatGPT, still nothing. So I don't even know if the hearing actually happened. I'm assuming yes, like we discussed like yesterday or so, that they're still going over everything. So now I have Robert Sean Ingram. He won't have as much info as Boyd. And from here on out, you'll see it gets less detailed. That's why I was saying, like, it just seemed like the case was mainly focused on Boyd. So June 1994, Ingram was indicted by a grand jury, 2 counts of kidnapping in the first degree and murder. His verdict came 10-2. He pleaded not guilty, and then they recommended 11-1 for the death sentence. But he did not testify either in the guilty or sentencing
No,
phase.
the 11-1, was that good enough to ride, or did it have to be like 12-0?
They recommended, so they didn't sentence him, so I'm assuming it's good enough. They did describe him as the key actor in the violent crime, even though it's mainly focused on Boyd. But just like Boyd, he's trying everything to get things thrown out or changed. He contended that the trial was flawed. He says his penalty phase was the most flawed. It allowed the jury to consider aggravating circumstances that were inapplicable to his case.
Such as?
Basically presenting evidence, facts that isn't applicable. Mm-hmm. I don't know what specific evidence and facts. He claims the instructions deprived him of the reliability required in capital. Again, he didn't object. He didn't object any of his claims, justifications before. He tried to say that his rights were violated by allowing a testimony of his involvement in drugs. He didn't object, probably just saying it was irrelevant, even though the main reason it all started is because they owed money for drugs. Believe it or not, he tried to argue to the court that he had his age wrong and it be mitigating circumstance. He was 22 at the time of murder, but the court said he was 24. So he's saying that they failed to consider his youth when considering him for the death sentence. He didn't object during the trial. So he tried to use a testimony of Larry Hughes, who was the state serologist.
The state what?
Serologist?
And what is that?
A forensic expert employed by the state who examines bodily fluids from crime scenes.
Okay.
Kind of like what I would think CSI. This man testified on a couple blood spots found in the van, and neither to be victims were the 4 men. So he's trying to say, like, I shouldn't be tied to all this because there's no blood to say the guy was in the van, I was around the man. Ingram thought that saying the blood wasn't involved in the case would make the evidence irrelevant. He said that the state relied on a gun and it was misleading because it was never used to commission the crime. And the gun was never covered. There was a gun used in trial as a reference, but never offered or admitted as evidence. But no objection was made. I'm going to say he must have had an attorney and it was his first case.
Yeah, sounds like it. A lot of rookie mistakes.
Yeah. Because, like, when you watch TV, you would think they'd objection. I'm not an attorney, but I would have fought hard.
Yeah,
I don't know.
If I was in that situation, I'd sit there and just count to 5 in my head. And after 5, I'd say objection.
Oh, as the person?
Yep. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Objection. Just
or
to make sure I
have
get
your
there.
notepad and write objection. Objection.
Yeah, so that if I need to file something later, I can, I objected every 5 seconds.
Very true. So just like Boyd, the court said he failed to establish, skipping ahead. He also tried to say racial issues when it came to jury selection, but they said he failed to establish a prima facie case of racial discrimination, which meaning initial showing of evidence. All of this jargon just got overwhelming. Someone with ADHD, I had to reread and be like, how do I understand this? Because, you're taught in school context clues, but with having ADHD, even context clues, you have to, really sit down and focus. So Boyd's attorney tried to use the driver who transported the body from the baseball field to the medical examiner as evidence. The driver was in the military, and at the time of the trial, he was stationed in Germany and was unavailable. So they tried to say that the body, there was no one to testify that or prove that the condition of the body from the baseball field was the same as when it was delivered and en route. Ingram tried to say that the instructions to the jury on the element of intent to kill were confusing and incorrect. No example on what he meant. And the court did not feel the same. He tried to fight and say that Cox's testimony was used with no evidence to support it. That's true. I can't, except for they have the duct tape Quinte Cox says the duct tape, he was implying that the conviction was resting solely on the testimony. I get it.
On whose testimony?
On Ingram's. I mean, he can't testify for Boyd, so Boyd's case was already over by this time. But Ingram was saying, like, Cox's testimony was solely used against him. And this is his appeal. This is after. The court stated that the trial presented evidence to support the witness's testimony, so it wasn't based off just the testimony. So you got your physical evidence. And so, yeah. He tried attacking the court with technicality of wording. He argued that the prosecutor continuously, I don't know why I put continuously led the witnesses with his questions to basically offering the testimony himself. The court reviewed the court document and did not feel the trial court abused its discretion overruling the objections. Ingram tried to say that the prosecutor was misleading the jury with misinformation to get a conviction. So saying A, B, and C, this is what happened, and court did not agree. So unfortunately for Sean Ingram, 18 May 1995, he was sentenced to death for capital murder. He fights the death penalty as well. He says that Alabama's method of carrying out a death sentence by electrocution constitutes cruel and unusual punishment. He was saying it was unconstitutional because inadequate equipment, unqualified personnel, inadequate procedures, all of the results in excessive burning and mutilation makes the death by electrocution in Alabama unpredictable, torturous, and inhumane. I get that because he used 2 previous inmates' execution as examples. There's only one that it makes sense to, which is Horace Duncan's. The electrical jacks were plugged incorrectly. It only caused him to go unconscious, so it didn't kill him. They fixed the issue and restarted. And then he was dead in 10 minutes. Talking about, like, one way to go. The second guy he tried to use was Michael Lindsay, no issues with actual electrocution, so I didn't understand his point. But he didn't raise any issues in court and presented no evidence. Appeals court did not find enough merit to reconsider. So with his witnesses, Sabrina Mack, just a reminder, she had said, hung out with the guys 3 weeks prior, and one of the guys mentioned that they were going to get him. And then July Williams, who was not a witness for Boyd, she was Ingram's girlfriend, testified about a conversation she had with Ingram shortly after the murder, and he told her about participating in the kidnapping and murder. I'm just like, with all these people knowing that they said that they murdered somebody, I wouldn't want to know that information. I'd be snitching. I'm not going to get...
Well, it sounds like everybody was.
Oh, true. But when they were asked, they were probably said, if you tell us what happened, we're not going to get you for knowing this information. Because you know how, like, you've watched interviews. So the next guy, his name was Monique Marcel Ackles. He went by Marcel. Reports said he silenced Gregory with duct tape by gagging him while he was begging for mercy. And I know sometimes words are used to make it sound more severe, but that sounds horrible. I just don't understand how you don't have the conscience to, like, even one, how you got there as a person to want to do that, but then how that didn't convict you enough in your heart to be like, ooh, I don't want to do this. So he was the one that rented the blue van, and according to Cox, he bought the gas and duct taped the mouth and hands of Gregory to the bench. Do you remember what I said? I'm hoping I didn't put that down wrong.
Which part?
Who got the gas? I know it says Boyd.
Yeah, at one point it said Boyd, and then it was a testimony.
Hold on. Okay, yeah, no, it was Ackles. I get their names all mixed up. Back to Sean Ingram, his execution date has not been set as of today. But back to Ackles. He bought the gas, duct taped the mouth and hands of Gregory to the bench. There is a popular quote that Cox said Ackles said to him immediately after the murder. We are all in this together. If one goes down, all go down. 23 August 1996, Ackles was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and he is still alive and serving as of today.
So why is it, do you think, that he didn't get the death penalty?
Because I don't know. That's why I keep thinking about everything. I think because you can tell by the intent from Boyd. He was the ringleader. He's the reason why everything got started, even though Ingram was the crazier one and like did the more violent stuff. I just think Ackles was just there and did what he was told. And it wasn't like he was being forced to do anything. I just don't think his intent was there like the other guys.
Okay.
And there's not much more. I didn't research more about, because it wasn't coming up. I read every single news article on this stuff. Are you getting a phone call?
No.
The way.
Same what time it was.
Yeah, it's late. Okay, we're almost done. Now we're on to the last guy, Quinte Cox. He was 19, 20 at the time of the murder, so he tried to ask the judge for a youthful offender status, which means he wouldn't have been tried as an adult, which could have gotten him the death penalty. And, state of Alabama, 19 is considered an adult, so he was like right on that border. The judge did consider it. And if he was convicted as a youthful offender, though, he would get no more than 3 years in prison and a fine of $1,000. He's the one that provided the gun used in the kidnapping. But really all it was is just to get Gregory in the van, it seemed like. It didn't, and hold him to not where he didn't run off or anything.
Yeah, for intimidation.
Mm-hmm. He agreed to testify against his counterparts in exchange for a plea deal. So he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole.
Because he snitched.
So I checked prison database, and there was no record of Quinte Cox in the Alabama facility. And when I looked up why it wouldn't show it, it said because they don't, or on that website, it was like, we don't show anyone like past who was here before. It's just the current serving. So I think it means he's out on parole and he doesn't want anyone finding him. Mm-hmm. Like, he was young, he was dumb, he made a bad decision. He wants to move on with his life. That's what I'm assuming. I could not even find a photo of him, a mugshot, nothing. I'm sure as I get more experience in researching, maybe I'll get better at finding that stuff. So his testimony led to the 3 capital murder charges, which I would assume is a prosecutor's dream. His biggest stance is that he did not participate in the murder. He had a part of his testimony that I read from some articles. One article. I don't know. I saw it somewhere. It said that he testified that the men returned to Anniston, sold drugs right after the murder. But I also read witness statements claiming Boyd went to a birthday party with the time frame being immediately after the murder. So who really knows at this point?
Yeah.
I'm assuming they probably quickly did all of the above. I mean, they're all within I don't think they went far.
Yeah, Anniston's not a big town.
Did you look that up?
No. I know.
You know Anniston?
I do.
How do you know Anniston?
Everybody knows Anniston.
I don't. I know Talladega because of NASCAR.
You get out more.
I do. I don't want to go to Anniston.
There's nothing there.
Anthony Boyd has served 30 years so far. He is in close custody, which means the most restrictive custody level, maximum security. They are housed, like the individual inmates are housed in a single cell, and movement outside the housing area requires restraints accompanied by an armed correctional personnel. That's crazy to me to think if you're not a violent person per se in general, just because you were committed, like you were sentenced to death, you have to do maximum security. I mean, I get it, but then it's like, I don't know. So he is housed in Kilby Correctional Facility, and it's in Montgomery, Alabama, which is the state capital for those who may not know that. I did look up on the map to see where it was, and I noticed a daycare down the road from it. Like, literally, I didn't look at the miles, but I feel like you could just easily walk to it, and I thought that was kind of ironic. I mean, the facility clearly has woods around it, but I wouldn't want to put my kid in a daycare down the road from a prison. But maybe the people that work there probably know, but maybe not a lot of people know. I don't know.
Well, a lot of it could be the prison guards. It could be like a spot where they take their kids.
It's kind of like a private daycare, it looked like. It was called an academy. So they do all the way to kindergarten.
Yeah, but I think there's hundreds of security guards there, and they can just drop their kid off on their way to work and pick their kid up. It's right there and convenient.
Yeah, but I would assume that they work 12-hour shifts, and that's probably really hard to do. Maybe. You could be right. But I would think there should be kind of like legislation. You know, like pedophiles can't go within a certain mile radius of a school.
And you can't sell booze within a certain distance of a church or school.
What is that distance? Okay, so Sean Ingram, he has also served 30 years as of 16 June 2025. He is also in a closed facility, but he's housed in Holman Prison, which is in Atmore, Alabama, and it's very close to Alabama-Florida state line. Marcel Ackles, he has also served 30 years as of 5 September. He's in a medium facility. It's less secure. It's for inmates who have less severe behavioral problems. They get to participate in treatment programs, work assignments, or other activities in the institution. And they can have dorm living, double occupancy cells. So I was stationed at Eglin Air Force Base, and there was a prison down the road from Eglin. And they had a work program where they could work on base. Because I used to get my uniforms not altered, because they didn't do that, but my tapes and rank sewed on by them, and dry cleaning, because they were the cheapest. I would tell you I would feel a bit weird because I did interact with the prison, the inmates. Like, they ran it. Like, there was a guy that ran the business office. He took my stuff. I mean, they're normal people. I get that.
I interact with inmates every family reunion.
That is true. I don't know if your family is listening to this, and I don't want to offend them, but, you know, I called them the redneck mafia. Do you think that should be redacted? Okay, so he's housed in William E. Donaldson Correctional Facility located in Bessemer, Alabama, which is outside of Birmingham. So I did not know why they were not in the same facility. Do you?
No, but I would think that's a common practice.
I mean, I figured in my mind, I was like, it's common sense almost, essentially. Like, you don't want them all together. And the reasons why is so they don't coordinate stories or intimidate witnesses if appeals are pending.
Well, not only that, one of them snitched.
Yeah, and I don't know where he went. He probably got out on good behavior and got that parole at early as possible, you know? I mean, in a way, good for him, because he didn't seem like he really did much. He was just there,
but if you
and he provided the gun.
The three of them who are convicted and their individual testimonies, you can piece together a pretty good storyline just by all of their testimonies. Their individual testimonies may not amount to much, but when you add all three, it starts to lay out the story. And like you said, they can get together and adjust that a little bit.
When you listen to Boyd, he sounds like a shitty person. Okay, so another one was, it's to prevent co-defendants from reinforcing each other's influence. Two main things I got from the court's determination. The murder occurred during a kidnapping in the first degree, and the murder was heinous, atrocious, and cruel. I kept hearing that or seeing that over and over and over, and your thing, I heard that, and maybe one other word I can't think of right now. It just...
Well, those are the requirements to go for capital.
Yes. But it's just like, what do you, I guess? I mean, that's horrible. Taping someone down and watching them and igniting them. So I wanted to explain some of that before we end. So kidnapping in the first degree by the law of Alabama, the code is 13A-6-43. It's when the kidnapper has intent to hold them for ransom, have them aid in a felony, inflict harm or abuse them sexually, terrorize the victim, interfere with the government political function. It's classified as a Class A felony, which means 10 years to life in the state of Alabama. If death results, the felony becomes a capital offense, which carries the death penalty or life without parole. So it's the technicality of what all this happened to them.
Sure.
Except for, I mean, and then Quinte gave a plea to testify against them. That's what makes me think more of, he just realized he got messed up in the wrong thing and he shouldn't have been there. So he was like, yeah, he was young. I mean, they all were young, but he was the baby.
Yeah, I mean, you take all four and whoever talks first is going to get the deal.
I know. They probably thought they could break him more because, one, they were trying to get Boyd. Like, they wanted, for whatever reason, they've probably been out for Boyd for a while. That's what I'm assuming. They had a thing to go out against Boyd. Quinte's testimony seemed more towards Boyd and Ingram, and I would think maybe he had some more alliance or connection with Ackles. So capital murder under the Alabama Code 13A-5-40 is defined as murder plus certain aggravating factors, murder during another felony, committed during kidnapping in the first degree to be specific, murder of specific victims, which would be law enforcement, prison guard, or public official, witness in a criminal trial, and then a child under 14. The other murder during another felony would be murder for hire, multiple victims in one act or scheme, particularly heinous crimes compared to other killings. It is punishable by death or life imprisonment without the possibility of parole in Alabama. The jury must weigh aggravating versus mitigating circumstances in the sentencing phase, meaning factors that make the crime more severe. In this case, murder happened during a kidnapping. So I have questions for you.
For me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Knowing none of the men have prior criminal history, do you think this sentence is appropriate for Todd?
So my personal feelings can go either way. I think all four committed it together. So all four should have got the same punishment. Whether life with parole, without parole, or execution. I think it should have been all four.
I agree. But at the same time, like when reading all this and understanding the law, like I understand the parts that you have, like, you know, and then
But it doesn't make sense for two of them to get execution, not the other two.
I only get it to the certain extent of from all the evidence provided, it doesn't seem like Ackles or Cox had any intent of killing Ingram for some reason. I think he just had anger issues and was like, I'm going to take it out on somebody. And Boyd was the one like, we're going to get him. So I don't know. I don't, the death penalty is a hard one because I don't know if it's our job to take someone's life for what they did. But at the same time, if they were in other countries, like certain countries have, like in Japan, we had a military member who he did something. He was drunk. I don't know if he was staying in a hotel or apartment, and he destroyed the place. So he got put in their jail. And he was like, his meals was like a live squid, like still screaming. And he caused like tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage. And so the conditions in the jail, like he had to speak to us because we were brand new in the Air Force, first base. We had to do this like 2-week long thing. I think now it's a week. And they had him come and talk to us, just kind of like scare tactic in a sense of don't mess up. This is what can happen. And he came and talked to us and I'm just like, man. And then in the Middle East, some really bad things happen over there. Like even if you steal something, they cut your hand off. So I'm not saying that we should follow suit, and they did a really horrible thing. So I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to think that if death penalty, it was worthy of that. But at the same time, I do agree if they're all in it together, and if they didn't go and say, "Hey, I shouldn't have done this," and you know.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Mr. Huguely's family, would want something to be done.
I know. I wonder if anyone in the family is going to be sitting there.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
I don't. Okay. Do you think they potentially were racially discriminated against?
No, I don't know. It's kind of like you would say, you'd fill the room. You got to fill the community. You got to fill the county. Could have been, yeah, but who's to say if it was
It's
the other way around? Would it be different? No. If they were a bunch of rednecks hopped up on meth, I think they would be sitting there facing the same verdict.
Yeah. I mean, it is tough knowing, being in the South, the crack cocaine situation, that how it was introduced, and that's definitely something we can cover at another time. Okay, so obviously Boyd is constantly changing his death sentence or putting up barriers to prolong it. Like, I understand I wouldn't want to die either, and probably would do the same thing, but I also wouldn't commit murder. I mean, I'm a mom, so if you did something to my child, I would want to. So I am curious what happened to Quinte Cox, and I hope he's reflected and doing better with life and trying to make the world a better place and learn from his mistakes. So I have some fun, not so fun, interesting facts of execution methods in the state of Alabama. Prior to 1927, hanging was the primary method. Lethal injections have been the popular method through 2023, and then the nitrogen hypoxia was first used in 2024 in Alabama. So nationwide, for the use of firing squad since 1977 until 2010, 3 inmates have been executed this way. All of those were in Utah, and the last one occurring in 2010. This year, South Carolina carried out 2 executions by firing squad. It's the first in the U.S. since 2010. Obviously that's not my job. I didn't choose that, but I could not be the person to take that life.
Well, you would know. That's why it's a squad and not one person. That's the point of the squad.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so all of them would shoot, and not one of them would take the guilt, the responsibility of being the one that took the life.
I just figured the most that they could get was what they were going to... Like, the most hits they could get to make sure that they died. And I didn't realize that... I didn't think...
Yeah, it's the psychological, so that it's not on your shoulders.
So Oklahoma also allows firing squad as a backup method, but they've never used it. So Meemaw, she became the 54th governor of Alabama in April 2017. She actually was a lieutenant governor at the time and assumed the governorship after Governor Robert Bentley resigned. And when we lived in Alabama for the first time, well, you lived here first, she was governor already.
Mm-hmm. That was 2018.
And then I joined you in 2019. Mm-hmm. Her current term will run until 2027, and she's done. I think their term's the same as the president. They can only run 2. During her time in office, she has set 8 execution dates spanning from 2024 to 2025. These include both nitrogen hypoxia and lethal injection methods. I was curious on what helps the governor determine when they are setting the execution date. For Alabama, when all appeals have been exhausted, the case goes back to the Alabama Supreme Court. The court then authorizes the execution warrant, which specifies that an execution is permitted, and then the governor sets the time frame. And the time frame is 24 to 30-hour window. And the reason being is because in the old system, execution warrants often expired at midnight. This gives more time for any complications, so forcing officials so that it would stop at midnight and then it would extend. So then I don't know what they would do if the warrant expired, but they couldn't finish it. So the prison staff get more time to prepare and carry out the execution. Before, prison officials couldn't establish an IV line before the death warrant expired at midnight. The time window is new to Alabama, and it's due to the nitrogen hypoxia switch. But that's all my notes.
Well, all right.
That was a longer one. How long was it?
Well, I don't know. I got to go check. I don't you got some website and email information to put out?
Oh, yeah. What is it again? I'm tired. jadedmayhem.com.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the jury at jadedmayhem.com.
Oh, yeah. Send us any stories or things you want, your own personal things. We take paranormal and other mayhem stuff as well, not just true crime. We do plan on covering that stuff, but right now we're just focusing a little on true crime to get it established.
Yeah, or if we made some
mistakes
in the information, or if anybody has any firsthand knowledge or want to correct it, let us know, and we can definitely go on air and make it right. We don't want to put out any false information.
And we don't want to make this political, because this one is about death penalty, and there are people who are against it, and there are people who are for it, and I'm just in the middle. I don't know. I think it would depend on if my family member was a part of it. Maybe I could make that decision. I don't know. What you doing? You done? Peace out, homies. Catch you on the flip side.